Still grows, blood still flies, mama still cook, and God won't die. Dogs still hunt, and man up, a little bit of red juice runs in your blood. Yes sir, yes ma'am, handshake deal, right still rules, even and real. Three chords and the truth ain't never gone nowhere. I said old school still in out here. I said old school still in out here.
Alright, I wanted to make a quick video about decoys just because it's about that time of year we start thinking about upgrading decoys or selling off some old decoys and getting some new ones. So I wanted to compare what we've kind of think are the best decoys on the market right now and which one's best for your style of hunting. So the ones that we're looking at, the Higden battleship, the Dakota packable, some people call them inflatable, but packable. The other one is the Dakota X-treme. All three are flocked. I know there's some people, I've been told, if they can see the flocking, I've already shot them. Well, maybe that's true, but the flocking does reflect the sun differently, and if they're up there, you know, 100 yards in the sky, and the sun's glaring off of a glistening shiny head, that's not going to look very natural, I don't think. As far as the flocking, I do think the Higden battleship does look the best. It's kind of a darker flocking. This one is going to look a little better because it's only a year old. These two Dakota ones are about 2 years old, so you can see they've got a little wear, they're a little faded, but they're still fine. They're going to look a lot better than just a non-flocked head. The main thing today I wanted to look at was price, weight, and just overall, like what makes one better than the other. The battleship is at Max Prairie Wings $109 for a 6-pack. That comes out to $18 per decoy. So they're the most expensive. They are foam filled. If you are the kind of person or kind of group that shoots a lot of decoys and you're worried about getting them shot up, sinking them, you might want to go with these. I honestly have never really had an issue with that. I think we've had one decoy in 6 years that's sunk, or that we've had fill up with water and partially sink. So if that's something you're worried about, if you're a guide, maybe that'd be where you'd want to go. Personally, never been a real big issue with us. Max Prairie Wings had a sale last year. I think you got these with a bag, so we bought them. This one does look better because we only carry these in a bag. They all have the slap weights on them. We put them in bags, try to keep their flocked heads protected. We only take these if we're boating in. We don't carry these on a Texas rig where they're banging into each other or anything like that. They are the most expensive, $18 per decoy. They are the heaviest. We'll put them on the scale. And notice the weight's not on the scale. We're just looking at decoy because weights are going to be different. 33, if I can get the light where I can see it, about 33.5 ounces. So these are coming in just a little over 2 pounds each. If you're carrying a dozen of them, you can kind of figure out what that's going to come in at. We figure this, when you multiply that by 12, it's about 25 pounds a dozen, not including the weight. So depending on how much weight you get on there, it could be another 5 pounds, 10 pounds, depending on what you carry. So those are going to be heavy. If you're a walker, I don't recommend these. The next would be the X-treme. These are not foam filled. They are hard. They do come with a flocked head. The heads can move. The good thing about these is they give you a bunch, and the good thing about all of them, they give you a bunch of different looks. So the head's not all the same on all of them. So you're not out there hunting 2 or 3 or 4 dozen decoys with the exact same head, which I think is important. These come in 12-pack for $159, so they're $13, a little over $13 per decoy. They're not as heavy. Make sure that weight doesn't get on there. These are 27 ounces, a little over. If you're carrying a dozen of those, not including the weights you put on them, it's going to be a little over 20 pounds. So not bad. These, you can see here, there's a shot on the cheek of that one. It just grazed it. It didn't go through it. It didn't sink it. We're not worried about that. So I don't know if that's a major deal, but to some people it might be. So to review, 25 pounds for the Higdons. These are 20 pounds. So if you're carrying a dozen, these are 5 pounds lighter, not including the weight. So, you know, depending on that, about 5 pounds lighter, not foam filled. The other one is the packable Dakota. This one's pretty worn, and the reason these are so worn is we carry these on a Texas rig. That's why there's no weight on this one. We carry these on a Texas rig for anytime we're walking. If we got to do some walking, we want these because they are light. So they take a beating. They're banging into each other. They're rubbing onto trees. And realistically, it's held up pretty good for that lifestyle. You're throwing them over your shoulder and dragging them through the brush. It's pretty good. These are for a 6-pack, $69.99, about $11.66 a Decoy. They're the cheapest option. You can save a few dollars as opposed to the Extreme. They are the lightest. So they come in right at 20 ounces per decoy, no weights again. So they're about 15 pounds a dozen. So they're 10 pounds less, almost half the weight of the Higden battleship. I think the Higden looks a little better. If you look size-wise, they're not much difference. The Higden might be slightly bigger, but not much. The Higden does have a good pattern to it. You can kind of, if you want to see all three patterns look great. I don't know that anybody could look at one and say it's ugly or would flare ducks. I think the camo pattern on all three looks great. They all look good on the water. One thing I will say about on the water, these, the inflatable or the packable Dakotas, they move the best. They swim the best. The slightest wind, the slightest current, and these will swim. And I'll try to find some video of that to put in there. These will swim the best and look the most realistic. These probably just look the best as a decoy in the water. Because their head's a little darker flocking, they're a little bit bigger. They look great on the water, but they don't move as easy as these do. So if we're walking, we're taking these on a Texas rig. Most of the time we're boating if the water's up. So if that's the case, we're taking these and we're mixing in some of these. We just have a lot of these because Max used to run sales on these every spring. We bought a bunch of them. Switched to these last year. All three are great options. We just have different uses for them depending on what we're doing, what kind of hunting we're going to be doing. So something to think about. Definitely heavy. I wouldn't carry them in. I wouldn't pack them in. I would boat them in. These are great for packing in. I will say when you get these in, they're going to look like this. They're going to be all smashed in. You're going to try to blow air in the back of them. It's not going to do much. You're going to think this is horrible. You've got to put these in hot water. You got to inflate them, and then you got to put them in hot water. Inflate them with your mouth. Run them in over hot water, and all this will form to the regular form it's supposed to be. I know when I got them in, I sent an email to Dakota, kind of ticked off, and they told me you got to run hot water over them, and they'll expand out to their normal size. If you want to pack them in a backpack, we've done that before. You can just collapse them down. They'll hold that shape pretty good. You cram a bunch in, and then when you get there, you blow them up, and they go back to normal shape. So anyway. That's kind of how we use them. Do what you want. If you got a bunch of money and you boat in, I'd go with this one. If you like to save some money and you do a little bit of walking, go with this one. You couldn't go wrong with this one either way. It looks fine. If you're even boating in, you can use them. They're lighter. They look great with movement. So I personally am a big fan of these. If I had to go buy some right now, I'd probably go with the inflatable or the packable Dakota. Maybe I'd take better care of the flocked head on them like I did the Higden. Higden's a great decoy though. It's just a heavy decoy. You'll notice in these videos of my game cameras, the ducks, their heads are up. Most of them are underwater feeding. So having 3 or 4 dozen decoys with the heads sticking up tall doesn't seem very realistic. So we like to incorporate some feeder decoys mixed in with our normal Higden and Dakota decoys.